All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. All right, I want to thank you so much for being here. Hope you're having a great week. Really super excited to be with you today and to share with you that we created a new division within the Trauma Therapist Project, and it's called Media Plus. And with Media Plus, we are helping to promote therapists of all kinds, coaches of all kinds, get their incredible work out there, get it in front of people who need to see it, who want to see it, who should see it. And I'll tell you something, how this came about is really something that I also want to share with you. When I first started this podcast, my goal, as I've talked about before, was to interview quote unquote master trauma therapists, seasoned trauma therapists, the Pat Ogdens, the Janina Fishers, and the Bruce Perrys of the world. And I thought that was going to be it. My goal was to raise the awareness of trauma. My goal was to help other newer therapists like myself at that time to become more educated, to become more courageous in stepping forward and getting into the field, and to inspire them. And as I started interviewing more and more people, more and more kinds of therapists, interviewing yogis, which I never thought I would do. They weren't in my vision in a sense, but learning more and more about not just the seasoned professionals, but the less seasoned people, the people who are passionate about what they're doing, the people who are passionate about helping others who've been impacted by trauma. That is what lights me up. And as I started interviewing people, and if you've been listening to the podcast for a length of time, you know that one of the questions I would ask, and I don't ask it now so much, but one of the questions I started asking was, can you share an early clinical error and what you learned from that? And a lot of people really like that question because it basically put these therapists on the spot to share something that kind of a quote-unquote mistake they made, maybe a trip-up they had. And I was expecting to hear kind of ruptures in interventions or modalities that had gone awry. And instead, what I began to hear again and again and over were these therapists talking about their maybe fear / inability to be themselves, to disclose appropriately, ethically in that moment, to be fearful of not knowing the right answer, right? And as these therapists shared this, inevitably they would go on and say that it was that rupture, in a sense, that quote-unquote mistake that allowed them to kind of solidify or concretize that therapeutic relationship, and even for that therapeutic relationship to unfold and to blossom. And what this did was really make me look at myself. Because when I first started, when I got to graduate school, I was all about just, what do I need to know? What do I need to read? What professor who specializes in trauma do I need to talk to find out everything they can teach me so that I can be the best trauma therapist I can become? And at that time, I had thought that I knew about or realized the importance of being genuine and authentic. And of course I did to a certain extent, but I didn't realize how vital that was. And again, as I've said on and on and on, both of these aspects are crucial, right? You've got to have the knowledge and the information and be well versed in a lot of different modalities and certainly the neurobiology of trauma and so forth if you're going to be working in this field. But what I think gets short shrift here is the incredible importance of being a human being, of being genuine. And we talk about that. We talk about the word authenticity, and those just fall off of our tongues, but we don't, I feel, in my opinion, really explore that and what those things mean. And what happened was, as I continued to do this podcast, I started reflecting on my own self, hearing these other therapists talk and share their ruptures, in a sense, their quote unquote clinical errors and what they learned from it really made me think about and reflect upon myself and the degree to which I feel I wasn't being, let me correct that, the degree to which I wasn't honoring who I was. I wasn't honoring my complete story, the ups and downs of my story, the intricacies of my stories, the blemishes, quote unquote, again, of my story, that I wasn't bringing those in and honoring the degree to which they made me me, and therefore honoring the totality of me, of my being, my uniqueness. And so as I started interviewing, I started not so much interested in these really super high profile therapists who've written books and who are traveling all over the world, but simply therapists who are just dedicated to helping people who've been impacted by trauma, people who are passionate about that. You know, when we meet someone who is just genuine, they're confident about who they are, they're okay, not just okay with who they are, they're in the moment with who they are, they're more than content. They're just themselves. They're genuine. We feel it. We're attracted to it. There's an ease about them. There's no pushing or pulling. They're just comfortable with their unique qualities, maybe even their eccentricities. That's authenticity. That's genuineness. We can feel it, and that's what I love uncovering in this podcast. That's kind of what I zero in on. Not so much what my guest is doing and how they're doing it, but how they got their story of how things unfolded. And as a result, I started talking to these guests who certainly maybe weren't that well known, but thinking to myself as I'm interviewing them, why the hell don't more people know about you? Why not? And there's a lot of different answers to this question, but I think generally speaking, a lot of therapists, and I'm not saying everyone, all of you, but a lot of therapists have a hard time putting their work out there, advertising themselves, promoting themselves, quote unquote. Why? Because in a sense, it kind of goes antithetical to what this profession is, this profession being being a therapist and being a coach in the field. It's wait, you're a therapist or you're a coach and you're advertising. It feels maybe kind of shady or slimy. And granted, when I first started doing this podcast, it was really difficult for me to put myself out there. And what? You're going to promote yourself? You're getting a website, you're going on Instagram or Facebook, and it just didn't feel congruent. It didn't feel I wasn't comfortable with it. And I think the more I am comfortable with myself and what I'm doing, and the more confidence I have in what I'm doing, I want to help as many people as I can. Of course I do. And so we created Media Plus to help therapists get the word out. We're working with incredible therapists who are putting events on, who have these incredible podcasts. I was talking to one the other day, and I was just thinking to myself, you are amazing. How people need to hear this. They need to know about you. And that's what this is about. I mean, helping therapists get out there, get the word out there. So what do? We invite therapists with our Media Plus platform. We invite them to utilize our platform. So over the course of the past several years, right, here at the Trauma Therapist Podcast, Trauma Therapist Project, we've developed somewhat of a sizable social presence, and we invite these therapists to utilize that. We help them promote their whatever it is, if they have a workshop they want to promote or a book they want to promote. One we're working with now, she's got a podcast. She wants to get out there. Another person we were working with had an event they were putting on. We help these individuals craft can be a graphic or an image or a post, and get it out there across social media. But also what we're doing is I'll do a mini interview with you. Let's say you're in private practice, right? I'll do a mini interview with you, and say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'll ask you about your private practice. I'll ask you about you and your story and what's driven you, what's inspired you, how you got to this incredible place, who you're helping, how you're working with them, who your clients are, or your target audience is, if that applies. And from that mini interview, we'll create video clips that will then post out across all our social platform, right? To help you get the word out, to help your prospective clients learn about you and see what you're doing. And I think a lot of therapists out there make the mistake of thinking that it's all about knowledge. It's all about modalities and interventions and an accumulation of those items. And again, hear me clearly. I'm saying those things are important. They're crucial. Of course they are. But there's not enough, I feel, in my opinion, value placed on the unique qualities of the therapist themselves, right? Their individuality, and a cultivation of one's genuineness and authenticity. And why is that important? Because we connect with that. We're humans. We need that. Listen, I'm going to tell you a personal story here. About a year and a half ago, I got a divorce, and it was crazy for me. And I sought out a therapist, immediately sought out my previous therapist, and she shot me back an email saying, Guy, I'm no longer seeing therapists. And I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And then I asked her if she could recommend some people, and she did. And she recommended a few people. I contacted one, and it wasn't a good fit, and all nice people, adequately competent. And I contacted the second person, and I met with this person, and again, completely competent. But this person led with their modality. They led with how they were going to help me via this particular modality. And it just was kind of a turnoff to me, because in that moment, right, I needed a human being. I didn't need a modality. I didn't care how much you knew or how much you learned or how many workshops you'd been to or books you'd read. I needed a person to connect with. And this is how I want to work. This is what I want to bring out through our Media Plus. So if you're interested, right, if you're a therapist out there, you're a coach out there, and you're working in the field, and you want to get your work out, and you want to do it by kind of sharing not only the work you do, but who you are, and allowing people to see that you're a human being and you can connect with, because this is what people connect with. And this is what especially people who are looking for a therapist need, right? Of course, they want someone who is going to, help them and guide them and get them better. But we all need a human being, a genuine human being. So we can't help everybody, right? We just don't have the capacity to do that at this time. And hopefully we're going to put systems in place so that we can do more, certainly. But if this is something you're interested in, if you're feeling like you're passionate about what you do, and yet you want to reach more people or get some more exposure, I invite you to check out Media Plus by going to traumamediaplus.com. We'll go to my website at thetraumatherapistproject.com, and you can find out information there. But once again, it's traumamediaplus.com, and we will help you. We'll guide you. I want incredible. This is what I love to do. I love to connect people, and I love to open the doors and get in there and hopefully inspire people to trust that their unique qualities are what's going to distinguish and differentiate them from everyone else out there. Listen, thank you so much for being here. Again, if you're interested, head on over to traumamediaplus.com. Have an awesome day.